Welcome back. I'm Pratap here. Let us generate demand and supply zones for weekly time frame. For the week opened on 25th September 2023 and the week closed on 29th September 2023. So entry time frame is weekly. Let us find the stocks which are closed near to the weekly demand zone. These 12 stocks are filtered where price closed near to the weekly demand zone. We can find a few high liquidity zones. Aarti Industries is having a high liquidity demand zone and it is tested once and it had already three rejections. The good thing, positive thing is it is located at low on the curve and it is having a close to or a little lower than 1 is to 2 risk reward ratio. And also you need to look into the trend in all the three time frames. So the current time frame is weekly. That means your LTF trend is weekly, ITF trend is monthly, and HTF trend is quarterly. So quarterly trend is up, monthly trend is up, but weekly trend is down. If you want to fine tune, you should also look into the trend at your lower time frames. You can fine tune to daily time frame or 75 minutes time frame. Maybe the lower time frame trends, if they are supporting, then you can go for a trade in this stock. And BPCL is also high liquidity demand zone. It is a fresh zone. And curve is equilibrium at equilibrium. And good thing is quarterly trend is up, monthly trend is up, but weekly trend is sideways. Oh, we have very good risk reward. Almost 1 is to 2 and 2.5 or close to 1 is to 2.5. The risk reward is there. So keep an eye on BPCL. And what else we have? High liquidity demand zones. Yeah, MGL is having a high liquidity demand zone. The good news is all the three trends are up. That means quarterly trend is up, monthly trend is up, and weekly trend is also up. It is a high liquidity demand zone tested once. That is okay, but it is having already 8 rejections. But the bad news is it is high on the curve. But if the price did not touch its higher time frame, even though it is high on the curve, the trade is acceptable. That means if the current price is not yet reached the quarterly demand zone, this trade is acceptable. Second time is acceptable because it is a high liquidity zone. But the problem is risk RR. You have only, it is almost 1 is to 1 trade. So if you want to go for this trade, you need to fine tune to lower time frames. At the time, you should focus the trend at the lower time frames also. Okay, any other high liquidity demand zones we have? I think that's it. And let us generate stocks near daily supply zone. So entry time frame is weekly. Let us filter the stocks which are near to the weekly supply zone. These are the 7 stocks filtered where price closed near to the weekly supply zone. Couldn't find any high liquidity supply zones in this list. And let's go back and find the stocks closed inside weekly demand and supply zones. So entry time frame is weekly. Let us filter the stocks where price closed inside weekly demand zone. So this is the filtered list. All these stocks are closed inside the weekly demand zone. So total 35 stocks are filtered. So you can study the high liquidity demand zones. Maybe you may find good trading opportunities from this list. Let's go back. Entry time frame weekly. Let us find the stocks where price closed inside weekly supply zone. So this is the filtered list. So total 30 stocks are filtered where price closed inside weekly supply zone. Let's go back. Now let us find the tested weekly demand and supply zones. Entry time frame weekly. Let us find weekly tested demand zones. So these demand zones are tested during this week. So total 21 stocks tested the weekly demand zone. So let's go back. For entry time frame weekly, let us filter the tested weekly supply zones. Only these 9 stocks are tested during this week. I mean, these 9 weekly supply zones are tested during this week. Oh, good. Look into LTTS. It is a high liquidity zone. It tested during this week, and now price almost reached the demand zone. Reward is 6.84. That means almost 6% return it has given during this week. Great. That's why I'm saying always focus on high liquidity demand and supply zones. Okay, let us find newly created demand and supply zones. Entry time frame is weekly. let us filter the newly created weekly demand zones. So these 9 stocks are having newly created weekly demand zones. Let's go back. For entry time frame weekly, let us filter newly created weekly supply zones. So these 4 stocks are having newly created weekly supply zones. So this is about the filter list for the weekly zones. Now let us generate demand and supply zones. Weekly demand and supply zones for all the stocks. So entry time frame weekly, let us generate demand and supply zones for all the 201 stocks. First 17 stocks in this list are sectorial indices, and remaining stocks are equity stocks listed in futures segment, F&O segment. But remember, the data is not F&O data, it is equity data. I'll keep on scrolling this list. Whichever the stock you want to study, pause our video and study parameters for that particular demand and supply zones. So this is the end of the list. Hope this information is useful to you for your further study and analysis. Let us all meet again in our next video.